Good morning, Dan and Amy. Did you catch this story out of Australia?
Medical professionals in South Australia are calling for urgent action this morning following shocking revelations about the deaths of 4 babies. The newborns were denied life-saving heart surgery because it wasn't available in Adelaide, and they couldn't be transferred interstate because of travel restrictions. Adelaide is the only capital city in mainland Australia that doesn't have its own infant cardiac unit. As one obstetrician said yesterday, quote, "I shall leave it to you to imagine the profound effect of these deaths on the parents." South Australian Premier will join us a little later in the program as well.
What he didn't say was COVID-19 travel restrictions. Lives versus lives. That's what it's been from the beginning. That's what it continues to be, despite the sophistry of political hacks, whether at the local level in Chicago and Illinois, or the federal level, or the international level. Although I got to say, shockingly, getting a lot more reason emanating from places like the WHO special envoy for COVID-19 than you are from politicians in Cook County and in Springfield. It's remarkable. So, lockdowners, what do you say to those 4 families in Australia? Because every death is one death too many, and we're supposed to do everything we can in order to save one life. So what do you say, lockdowners? And this against the backdrop of new lockdowns in Chicago Metro, in suburban communities, because of increases in cases. Now, we're going to tell you what the distribution of those increases in cases are. We don't know the severity of those cases. But you know what? For the decision makers, it doesn't matter. They don't care where the cases are coming from, and they don't care what the severity is. They just care about having cases so they can continue their lockdown whack-a-mole policies to justify the last 6 months of lockdown whack-a-mole policies. That's what's actually happening.
But bars and restaurants being closed for in-person dining makes no sense, because in DuPage County, 80% of their new cases that they've had are from long-term care and assisted living places. Go down the line. 1, 2, restaurants, here we go. That's 1.6%. 1.6%. So how are they justifying this? And this is what they released. Here's their science and data, which just showcases cases that happened in restaurants and bars in different states, cities like San Diego, Minnesota. There's no data related to DuPage County and restaurants here.
But you understand, until we're at the utopian position of 0, a number we cannot achieve.
Never get to.
Then anything they do to constrict your life or your livelihood is legitimate. And as long as they make enough people afraid,
well, they do.
They'll get away with it. One person they're not getting away with it with is Dave Ruggles. He's a businessman and a Wheatonian, like myself, at least originally. And he's attempted to organize efforts to get schools back open, to get sports back online. Been unsuccessful, so he's pulling up stakes and heading out to Indiana. He gave an interview to WGN's morning show, which we poured over earlier in the program. Now he's going to give a more intelligent interview because he's got more intelligent questioners than the WGN morning show does on our program. Dave Ruggles, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So the decision to say, I don't have any more fight left in me, I'm out of time, it's time to flip over to the Hoosier State.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a different approach over there. And, you know, all the things that you guys have been talking about are exactly right. I mean, the positivity rate is a Bible phrase for the people in Illinois. And I think in Indiana, they glance at it and they look at hospitalizations, which really, to me, is the only metric at this point that matters, is can we service the sick? Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously, positive cases are one factor, but it's just it's a number that's got so many flaws to it. But really, it came down to, do I want to be in a state that's going to cut and run and panic at the first sign of any trouble. And I didn't anticipate that Illinois would panic this quickly. I mean, I haven't even gotten out of town yet. But they're already panicking with the restaurants, like you said, in DuPage. And some of the schools, I know Naperville schools were supposed to go hybrid. They changed their tune here at the last second. Wheaton seems to be holding right now, but I don't anticipate that they're going to have the spinal cord to fight this thing off. And you turn around and you go across the border and you look at Indiana, where we're moving to, and what they do is they limit the damage. They get a case, they quarantine people that are within 3 feet of that person instead of 6 for 15 minutes. They take those people out of the equation, clean the room, and they proceed with school. And that's exactly the right approach. I mean, I want my kid, people, you heard the GN interview and all the comments afterwards. It's about basketball. It's about basketball, and that's all you hear, even though all I talked about was the school side of it. I mean, my kid wants to be in school 5 days a week. I have an academic All-American and a valedictorian and 2 high honors students in my house. Mm-hmm. Education is very important to my family. And socializing with other kids is very important. Being around coaches, being around teachers. My son would have survived e-learning here. I call it e-not-so-much learning. Mm-hmm. But what about the kids that are in the inner cities that aren't logging on at all, that aren't getting any of the services that are provided by schools, that aren't around mentors and that kind of thing? Those are the kids that are getting completely thrown under the bus here by a statistic that is really virtually meaningless.
Well, one other thing, though, too. I know it's not just about basketball, and you just detailed how it's not and how well your kids do academically. But my response to those people saying, oh, it's just about basketball for his kid. So what if it was? This is my kid. This is the opportunity to play sports for the one time in his life and to see where it goes. It's the value he gets, and every kid gets, male or female, from playing organized sports. So what is this dismissive attitude about my kid and his ability to play sports? I'm certainly not dismissive about your kids and their ability to play sports or extracurricular activities that they enjoy. That is part of the intellectual development of young people, for goodness sakes. That dismissive attitude, I know you talked about the layers of incompetence and cowardice. The indignant and dismissive attitude just drives me absolutely bonkers, and it's remarkable how prevalent that is as well.
Well, there's no doubt about it. I mean, there's something, and I've kept the politics somewhat out of this, but it is it's divided along political lines. If you're a liberal, you want other people to be miserable, not just you, and it's an amazing approach. It's an amazing approach to life. It's exactly right. If I want my kid to go play basketball somewhere else, then I should be able to do that. And what is it? How does it impact you? The problem is it makes them look bad. And it shows that you can actually get up and do something, that you're not a victim, and I'm not a victim. We're just never going to be victims in this household. I've kind of used this metaphor, to kind of explain it. I mean, there's the approach of, if there was an active shooter in the room, do you hold your kid up as a shield, or do you dive in front of your kid? The people who want the lockdowns and the continued punishment of our kids are the ones that would hold their kid up and hide behind him. I'm the kind of guy that would dive in front of my kid, and I think most people are. I just cannot understand the mentality of, let's punish the kids to protect a small subset of our society. I don't want to see 80-year-olds die. I don't want to see anybody die from this thing. But I think if you ask the 80-year-olds, do you think the kids should sacrifice everything to protect you, or are you capable of protecting yourself and watching your grandkids from afar live their lives like you got to do? Yeah. And I think that they would probably overwhelmingly support that approach. So you start to wonder who's driving these decisions. The people who are being protected probably aren't, as a majority, in favor of the approach of punishing the kids to do so. So why are we doing it?
So are your kids all completely on board? You're moving the entire family, or just your son, or all of them?
Well, so I've got 2 at college. I've got one or 2 that are out of college, so they're adults, and then I've got the junior in high school. So, it's not as big of a move as it would have been 5 years ago. That's for sure. Yeah.
What if anything was the conversation with his soon-to-be former school, the administrators there, the other parents there? What have your conversations been like, trying to trying to drive some common sense approaches to this?
Well, I went to the board meeting, and I've never been to a board meeting in my life, and that's as I said when I got up there, that's on me, not on them. I mean, I don't know who the board members are, and that's why we're in the position we're in, honestly.
Right.
Because people like me don't pay enough attention to the local politics. You go to the poll and you vote for the president, but you don't vote for the board member who actually might have a bigger influence on on your personal situation. I just looked at these guys and I said, you talk about wanting to open the schools, do it. And it's the same thing with Pritzker. He talks about he wants the schools open. Well, then just do it. And they point fingers at each other, and everybody blames everyone else.
Yep.
I mean, Pritzker says it's up to the schools. The schools say they can't comply with the IDPH guidelines. The IDPH says they're just guidelines. So these three headless horsemen are blaming each other. And the irony is that Pritzker talks about Trump hasn't done a top-down approach, and that's what put us in this position. Well, you're in position to say open the schools, and they would do it if you did that, and you won't do it. And the question is, JB, why?
Because he's afraid. He's leading in the fetal position, and I don't know who's controlling him or what's going on, because if you look at the states around us, I know not everyone's having in-person learning, but at least they have fall sports. And even the state of Washington, because Governor Inslee, who's a lame liberal, met with athletes, and they convinced him that, it's okay. So if their positivity rate is 5 or lower, they can play all sports. They can go to wrestling. They can have dancing and cheering and theater. So I don't know why he is just so stubborn on the issue.
Iowa and Indiana are in the midst of their football playoffs. They've successfully made it through their seasons. Yes, there were some games that were canceled, okay? Sometimes it happens. But if you play, if you're a parent of a fall athlete and at the end of the day, your son got to play 7 or 8 football games instead of the 10 maybe that he was supposed to. Or you're a girls volleyball, coach, and maybe they're supposed to play 24 matches and they got 20 of them in. At least you went down swinging and you tried.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It really is very simple. You start, and I said this on GN, you start with the premise of the kids must be in school and must be allowed to play sports, and then you work backwards from there. That's not my line. You know whose line that is? That's my mom's line. She taught for 35 years in Chicago Heights, which is a terrible neighborhood. She was union president for 10 years. And she completely agrees with my stance on this, that the kids are getting thrown under the bus, and she's flabbergasted by it. That's a union president talking there, not a businessman.
Interesting. And what was your final straw? Was it when the Big Ten reversed itself and most of the Midwestern governors who hadn't did as well, except for ours?
I just looked around and I see a bunch of excuse makers in charge here. I don't think they have any resolve whatsoever at the academic level and the sports level. And what I'm doing is I'm just anticipating, anybody with a brain understands that the case count is going to go up as it gets cold. We're going to get sick. People are going to get the flu. Everything is going to be attributed to COVID. How is the government going to react? In Indiana, my gamble is that they're going to say, let's continue to forge ahead here with in-person learning and sports. And in Illinois, I think it's going to be, they've got one foot out the door and another one on a banana peel, and so I'm just not going to be in a position where I'm sitting here, in mid-December, waiting for basketball season to start, waiting for my kid to be able to go to school, and waiting for basically a circle of idiots to come to the right conclusion for once and advocate for the kids, which is what their job is. So it was kind of a cumulative thing for me. I just kept looking at the situation. Obviously, like you mentioned, I was holding rallies, trying to get everybody motivated to stand up and speak out. The fear in this state, and I called it the levels of incompetent cowardice. Teachers and superintendents and, just go right down the line. The government, the IHSA, these people are just, they're just failing these kids.
I know. And I want to thank you, too, for all that you've done, because I saw you at the District 214 rally. I saw you, at the rally in Wheaton. And I have to tell you, I died a little inside when I heard you were moving. And I'm not jealous. I'm envious. And I wish I didn't have this thing called an ex-husband, because I would be right there with you. I even have checked out schools in Northwest Indiana because my kids are dying in the basement. They're dying because that's where they do their e-learning, and it's bad. And if you, like yesterday, one of my son's teacher on Google Meets was smoking, and we don't know if she was smoking cigarettes or pot. Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, we have a teacher that said that because of the ventilation system is poor at the school, you need to text questions to the teacher at the front of the class. No talking. You must. I mean, these are the kinds of things that are going on. And it's unbelievable. But the one thing I would say to people is this, and I'm not, this country was formed on people seeking a better life, right? I mean, when they didn't like England, they came over here. When they didn't like the East Coast, they started to go west. You can find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. And when it's your kids' well-being that's on the line, I think you got to lay it on the line and do whatever you have to do. And I understand there's situations that keep people here, but at some point, when enough people leave or enough people stop logging on to eat not so much learning, and all of a sudden they realize that 50% of the student body is not logging on at all, and they're losing funding as a result, guess what? Money talks, votes talk. That's the thing that's going to wake these people up, unfortunately. They don't understand anything else. So there's things that still can be done. I'm not going to be completely done with helping out my friends here. I mean, I'm a dangerous guy because I've got nothing to lose because I'm out the door. Mm-hmm. So I can say all the things that everybody else is afraid to say. And that's what I intend to continue to do.
Well, you're right. We're going to have one kind of revolution or another. It's either going to be the American Revolution or the French Revolution. It's to be determined. Right. Dave Ruggles, businessman, parent of a student who attended, I guess now past tense, school in Wheaton, moving to Indiana. He's one of the organizers of the We Stand For Students rallies. Dave, thanks for joining us. Good luck in the Hoosier State.
All right, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hi, this is Jay Farner, CEO of Rocket Mortgage. Making the right financial decisions has never been more important. We can help guide you to those right decisions now when they matter most. Mortgage rates are near historic lows, so when you call 833-8-ROCKET or visit us at rocketmortgage.com to start your refinance, you'll be well on your way to saving money every month.